Welcome to Thinking Green. David Samuels was supposed to be my guest this week, but over the weekend he canceled, which is okay. So now I have the pleasure of having two of my fellow board members from the Riverside Park Conservancy on the show, Diane Hansen and Kathy Strother. Kathy is the secretary and was one of the founding members of the Conservancy and lives on Bowles Avenue with a backyard right up against the park. So the park made the news. Welcome, by the way.
Thank you.
Park made the news, and I'm kind of glad we scheduled this show before the park made the news, but I'm glad we're here because, well, I don't know, maybe I'll ask you what you thought about the story compared to the experience of being at council.
I think I was frustrated at council because some non-truths were told, and that's frustrating because our goal is the park and to make it a better place. We're volunteers, that's all we are is volunteers. So some non-truths were told to, and that bothers me. But I'm glad that City Council deferred it to Parks and Rec. So
I think that was a good path.
That was a very good path because Parks and Rec is where it should be. We are working with the city. We are following their recommendations and doing everything they say. So it was interesting. One of my clients came and brought me the paper with it highlighted where I was quoted. So
it was a nice quote.
It was a nice quote. Thank you, Kathleen Edgecombe, for getting it right. I really appreciate that. So, the beat goes on. I said, do you want me to read it?
Sure.
Kathy Strother, whose property borders the park, wants to hold off on improvements until after New London Landmarks completes its study. And there is already a playground at nearby Winthrop School, she said, which neighbors now use. We want a playscape, but not yet, said Strother, who is secretary of Riverside Park Conservancy. Our goal is to have a unique play area. And I think that speaks for itself. It's not so much like Riverside Park is. We're not saying we don't want a playscape. We're just trying to not rush into things. I mean, there's a playscape right at the top of Riverside Park. It's right at Winthrop School. The kids play there. So it's frozen ground. You can't put a playscape in there now, so I don't understand why all the yelling and screaming is about.
I don't understand the headline because the headline. I read the article and I'm looking for the meanness and the fight. And it says fight brews over Riverside playground gear. I don't see it in the article. I just think it was an incendiary headline, and that was frustrating for me.
Well, I think some of the people there showed a lot of frustration and looked very angry during the meeting because it was, I think, pushed to Parks and Rec. So I think that's where the fight brews.
But it's a Parks and Rec decision, is it not?
Yeah, it's a city park. It's no one else's park. You shouldn't be bullied into putting something in there just to make one person or group look better. I mean, we're not trying to take any headlines. We're just trying to make it a better park.
And I think one of the things I was struck by, and I didn't stay till the end of the meeting. I had another meeting out of town I had to be at, so I was there for the public hearing, but not for the rest of the discussion. And, I think that for some people, it's fair to say this isn't really about the playground. And, the nicest way I can express what it's about is I think there are some people who see this playground as like a symbol of New London investing in East New London. And they feel that moving the playground is like a statement that New London's willing to invest in East New London. But I think it's the wrong kind of investment personally. And I think that we should think more about what's on the ground than what kind of symbolic victory we might be looking at.
And when you say New London investing, you mean the
City of, and the taxpayers
because
of.
I've been to many of the meetings that Landmarks has hosted, and there is definitely, there are a lot of people attending, a lot of the same people, a lot of different people, and there are people who live in New London who are obviously investing in this plan at least, in following through and having ideas and sharing ideas and being at the meetings and being willing to give ideas. So I think obviously with the, when we went to get out the vote to save the park from sale, there were a lot of people who were invested in the park and who were investing their energy. And there are still a lot of people who are investing their energy in this park.
I think it's fair to say that our board is very fiscally conservative. Lot was a group that was very supportive in saving the park. And many of our board members are either Lot members or have worked with Lot on some other projects. And we are very reluctant to ask the city to spend money on things that we don't think are the best deal for the city and the taxpayers. And to that end, one of the reasons the Conservancy was founded to start with was so we could start getting grant money in and start getting private donations in. And we received our 501c3 letter in early December.
Which makes us tax exempt.
Which makes us tax exempt, and it's really a prerequisite for any kind of grant funding. And so even though it's retroactive, if you don't have it in your hand, people aren't going to even allow you to put in applications.
Can I elaborate on that just a little bit?
Sure.
Because it was said last night at City Council that we've been active, a nonprofit group, for over a year now. Yes, technically we are because it was backdated.
Right.
But we did not receive it until December.
Right.
So we did not actively seek anything until we had that in our hand.
That's true. In fact, we submitted a community foundation grant in November for repairing the bathrooms, which everyone you talk to who uses the park puts the condition of the bathrooms and the lack of running water at the top of the priority list. It is the biggest obstacle to families with young children using the park, and to everyone else as well, picnickers, whatever. Even though there are porta potties, running water is a big deal for families. And we submitted that grant a little before the IRS letter came because they had notified us, I think, very end of October or early November, and let us know that they needed a couple documents and then we were set. And so by that time I felt confident enough it would happen and you could write on the grant. We've been in touch with the IRS and they've told us we'll get our letter before the end of the year.
Which we did.
Which we did. It was dated December 6th, I think. But before that, you just don't know. They don't tell you anything.
No.
During the 9 months, it's just sitting in a pile waiting to get a worker to look at it. And it was a very minor error. Our paperwork with the state was not done correctly when we started back in December a year before. And all we had to do was a small amendment and get it recorded by the state, and then we were set. Everything else was perfect.
But there we are. We're
now we're
a
there.
501c3 nonprofit organization. We can take donations that are tax deductible to the giver, and we can apply for grants, large grants, small grants, from all kinds of granting agencies. And we have plans, and we've done all kinds of stuff. Last year was a really spectacular year in the park. A lot of people were there. A lot of people used it.
It was, and in addition to the bathrooms, the other grant we've already submitted recently was one for getting grills, 4 grills.
Calendar at the end.
Oh, and we don't know exactly where they're going to go, as a matter of fact, but we figure by the time we get the money, it's CDBG, you get the money July 1st, and by that time, the plan will be already finished and submitted, and we'll be able to target what the best areas to establish family picnicking sites will be. So, and there are more to come. You know, now that we have the paper, we can go crazy.
It's just a matter of time and effort.
Yeah, and it does seem like a long time, but really it isn't. We incorporated
In that time, we've done a lot of activities. We've had a lot of activity in the park. We've opened it up. We've had, when we had our down by the riverside in September, there were a number of people that I spoke with who had never been to the park before. Lived in the area for a long time, had never been to the park before, heard about
Didn't
down
know
by
where
the
the entrance
riverside.
was, not even,
Well,
yeah.
So that is a real
Yeah.
problem
The
to this
entrance.
day, that you can't find, no one knows where it is. Even if you think you know where it is, you can't find it. Even if you're 10 feet away from the entrance, that windy road gives you no real confidence that you're really going where you want to be.
So signage is something else that we're looking to
Absolutely.
get. And again, in a city that is so strapped for money, we're looking for grants to subsidize most of these things instead of, you know, people are saying, well, 57,000, that's a lot of money to move a playscape and put the proper padding down for a playscape.
And there's a lot of site work involved. No matter what spot would be chosen for a playscape, there's going to be a lot of site work because there are a lot of routes everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah, it really isn't a playground, it's a park. And
Right.
the differentiation is pretty important in this case, I
Right.
think. Well, I don't know if you're game, but I put together a lot of slides, and the first ones are sort of to back people up. Anyone who hasn't been to the charrettes, didn't attend Peter Miniuti's presentation at the library, wow, probably over 2 years ago,
Right.
just to give an idea of some of the things that are being looked at, and then we can sort of just talk over it. So this might take just a minute. Okay, is this, okay. So this is how I spent my day now that I retired. I can play with PowerPoints. This was actually the very beginning of what Peter Miniuti was talking about. These green dots represent places where living things live. And if you have dots in isolation, whether it's houses with people in them or, you know, where rabbits or other wildlife or plants exist, if they're very isolated, it's really not good for their well-being. So the goal is, as much as possible, when talking about any kind of ecosystem, is creating connections. And that's true in your neighborhood. You want the street grid, you want to be able to get to your neighbor's house. And it's also true in parks where you want, you know, the rabbits to be able to get from one end to the other without, you know, getting squished by cars.
Right.
So, you know, that's one thing. The park is a really important ecosystem in New London. So that was part of how they were thinking about it. This is an aerial photo. And if you notice these green spots, this is Riverside Park. This is the old mill. This is Fulton Park. And this is the State Boat Launch. So there are 3 green areas. And as you can see, they're like the little balls that aren't connected to anything. So part of the goal of the plan in the long run, and I have to say we were poking around Fulton Park and Winthrop Cove near the mill a couple days ago, and you know, I want to take that on too, but not this year. There's some real potential. So in the long run, and this is really, we're talking really long term, they're talking about augmenting the connections among Hodges Square, the Mill, Fulton Park, Riverside Park, the shoreline. There's an aerial photo of the park. And this is the elevation. It goes from sea level up to 140 feet. And this one, which is kind of interesting, is slope. And the greenish areas are the only flat spots in the park. The reddish areas are the really steep ones, and the yellow ones are gentle slopes. So as you can see, a lot of the playscapes that are put on flat playgrounds are really designed for a flat space. And although Riverside Park is a large park, there really aren't a lot of options that are really very flat. If you've ever tried to drive in Riverside Park, the roads are insane. I won't say I get lost anymore, but you get near the basketball court, should you be going left around them or right around them? It's pretty confusing. So one of the big goals of all of this is to change the roads. And I don't know, I think they've come up with a solution, but I don't know what it was. But one idea was just the main road around the top. One was one on the loops around Adelaide, and one was one that went through. And I don't know how well you can see it, but these arrows signify where people have viewpoints. And if you kind of go backwards to what the park is like now, the views aren't very open. They're better than they were when the study was done. But one of the goals is to open things up. So
we
that's,
have a view of the river.
Yeah, views of because there are spectacular views at the park.
Beautiful views. That's.
So I just took some photos of how the park is used, and then we can just talk about the different issues as they come up. Nature's classroom. And I think that's, and if you look at this picture, you probably can't see it, but behind the car there is a deer. And that was on a weekend day. And this is just shows to me the majestic side of the park.
And that's facing the river? And
that's facing the river. I think it's taken, I don't know where it's taken from exactly. Maybe near the, I'm not sure, maybe near the basketball court.
Across the street from the basketball courts,
Yeah.
There's the curbing. This is the street right over here that's covered by leaves. So,
okay, well, I think we'll put this away for a little bit and talk a little bit about what we've done the past year. Let's see, we had a lot of park cleanups and events, and your husband Lou kind of took on a project. I don't have a picture of it.
oh,
The trenches.
oh, the trenches. They're beautiful.
French drains.
I don't know what they're actually, they're cobblestone, right?
They're
Yeah.
cobblestones, and they're long, trenched out gullies. They're sort of quarter round, and they are very attractive, but they're also an integral part of the drainage in the park, and they're certainly worth cleaning up. I'm sure that they were put in there 100 years ago.
Yes. And I know Lou, Kevin from our neighborhood, Jeff from our neighborhood worked very hard. A lot of other people, I don't mean to exclude anyone out, but to clean out that were just covered over, and they found, and just as soon as you find one, you just start working on it because you want it.
Yeah,
it's so beautiful. I mean, just they've got to be 100 years old, but they all work in sync together, and whoever created that 100 years ago was a very smart person. So.
Yeah, and they're beautiful. They've been uncovered around the basketball court and partly on the lower part of the park. But one of the goals, actually, we were asked by Parks and Rec to give them what our goals were for 2013, and one of the things I wrote was expose the network of historic drainage trenches and then implement best practice water management in the park.
Right.
Because one thing that will have to be changed is those trenches 100 years ago. shunted the water under the railroad tracks into the river. And now, really, they don't want that water going into the river. They wanted to make it absorb on site. So at the bottom of the trenches where they leave, there will probably be something different from what was in the past. But once I almost can't wait to see the whole network exposed because it's so cool looking.
Such a beautiful park. That is so. It's going to be exciting to see all that once it's finished, and that take a lot of work because it is a lot of work to do that. You know, of course, you can't start until things warm up and thaw out. So, but
yeah, they might have thawed a little today, but you know, next week they could be like.
But let me say again
cube.
what I have said probably 100 times. This park is not like any other park in the city.
No, it's not. You're right.
No.
It is unique.
And that's really important. I think it's important because of the kind of resources it is, but it's also important for the preservation of the park into the future, because I think the reason that so many people rallied to the park was that, you know, the city, some of the people in the city talked about replacement property. There is no replacement. There just is nothing in the city that compares to it. It's so incredibly unique. The slope, the ledge,
the trees.
The trees are.
Yeah, there is. I mean, when you look at the other parks in the city, you look at Toby May, you look at Calkins, there aren't any trees.
Yeah.
They took the trees out of Greens Harbor. Name some other. Ocean Beach has no real wooded areas.
Right.
It has some lovely areas, but it's not a picnic park. It's
It's totally different from
completely
Riverside.
different.
It's a beautiful park, and I love Ocean Beach. It's gorgeous, but
Right.
it's
Yes,
Ocean
gorgeous.
Beach.
And I heard something about the Arboretum recently, that we all think of the Arboretum as being another kind of wooded natural area in New London, but I was told recently that the college could develop it. There's no deed or any paper that says that they have to keep it wild open space forever. So I hope they never do, but the city could come down to having only Riverside Park as a wooded area in North New London. We can't really be secure that the Arboretum will be there forever. So I did not know that, and I found it pretty disturbing. But
Yeah, that's pretty distressing.
yeah, but it really just adds to the value of keeping Riverside Park and keeping it wooded. We all know, those of us who have participated in cleanups and weeding, that there are a lot of invasive plants there, and that's another big goal. And
Yes, we have a big invasive plant problem in Riverside.
I used to get poison ivy every time I walked in. I think it's a little better now, but my own favorite is is the possibility of getting goats.
The goat is, I think, I said earlier that my neighbor said he's almost, I would say he's about almost 80, and said, I kind of like the goat thing. So having even someone that age that's right, one of my neighbors right in that area saying he likes the goat idea, that's an interesting idea.
And explain why we would get goats.
Yeah, well, goats eat invasive plants, including poison ivy. They like it. It doesn't bother them. Years ago, we spent some time living in the country on the West Coast, and we were goat owners, and the goats ate our poison oak, and interestingly, we drank the milk and never got rashes. Then we came east, and I get it at the drop of a hat, and we got rid of our goats. But it seems like a lot more natural way to get rid of invasives than trying to spray them. And you know, I even think of the students at Winthrop School, how interesting it would be for them
They'd
if
be
there
so
were
excited.
goats on the slopes eating the poison ivy right outside their school. So hopefully we can get something like that going. And
Right.
I guess it's a cost-effective way to get rid of weeds too. I've been doing a little research. So goats.
I think it's a great idea. Can you imagine being a school kid, coming out and seeing the goats? I think that would be great.
Hopefully they're well-trained goats.
Yeah.
Goats
Yeah.
aren't always nice.
Yeah. Well, you probably want to keep the males away because they can be kind of rowdy. But I think I don't know. I don't know if there are specific gentle breeds or adaptable
Something
breeds
we
who
can
do
look
that.
into, yeah.
But it's kind of an intriguing idea.
Mm-hmm.
And we mentioned the students, and last year there were a couple of cleanups that were largely devoted to students. Some kids from the Drop-In Learning Center came to clean up, and some of them lived in New London and had never been at Riverside Park. So there's still a lot of work to do. The other group was freshmen from Conn College, and their second day in New London, OVCS had organized community service all over the city, and we had like 40 Conn College freshmen, and Kathy was there.
Yes.
And it was kind of a bonding experience for them, weeding together and planting together. I wish I had a picture, but they planted a lot of the annual flowers that are along Crystal Avenue. So next year, hopefully, we'll be able to expand that and get still more volunteers.
Yeah, it looks really nice there.
Yeah. And we
That's
had
at the
donated
entrance of the park.
at the end, and actually just along Crystal Avenue, there's a strip that's maybe 2 feet deep on the street, along the street, and we're actually planning to make it turnaround Stanners this year, so that'll be good too. And I guess the criticism has been leveled that we haven't really earned a lot of money, but there's been a lot of in-kind donations made. We were given a ton of annual plants for those plantings. We didn't have to buy them. We've gotten so many people from the community who have just given us stuff when we have events, and performed for free, and brought food for events. That it isn't something that shows up on the balance book, but it really speaks to how the community likes being involved.
And that also breeds passion for the park, and it inspires people to become involved and to stay involved and to do more. We don't want to just plop it down and say, here's your park. If you worked for the park, you're going to be much more invested in the park.
Absolutely. And people, the biggest obstacle is getting people into the park, really. When the Conn College volunteers came, the woman who came with them lives in East Lyme, but she grew up in New London, and she had never been in Riverside Park. And she told me that, honestly, she didn't vote in New London, but she thought that selling the park was a good idea. But then visiting the park and actually spending the day there, she said, I'm so glad that wasn't done.
I am too.
We all are.
Yes, it's a beautiful
Even though
park.
it's not without its stresses.
It does have a little bit of stress going on there.
I'm going to see if we can look at a couple more pictures. Oh, yes, and to go with the Nature's Classroom part, I was at the Custom House Museum, and there was a Valentine's Day collage that or Thanksgiving collage that all the students had said what they're thankful for. So this student had written, I am grateful for the people who saved Riverside Park because I am a student from Winthrop School and we can use it as Nature's Classroom.
Well, that's very sweet.
That was very sweet.
So, you can see even some of the students are very attached to it. And this is the view from Winthrop School into Riverside Park. And I guess we can talk a little bit about what we did last week. Over the last year, we, as a group, I think we're kind of newspaper and publicity shy, which is good and not good, not
Right.
so good.
I agree with that, because there are things written in comments and stuff that you want to respond, but then you don't want to start a war over, and I take the higher road on a lot of things, so.
Well, we could do better publicizing, but I think many organizations, particularly new small organizations, could do better publicizing.
Yeah.
But the people who came enjoyed.
And for people who didn't come, or even if you did come and you want to reminisce, I have some pictures from some of the things that happened. There was music in the park last year. There were art jams as part of the creative placemaking project that New London Landmarks has been conducting on an ongoing basis. And those were really fun.
Those were so much fun for
now
the children.
You came with your grandson.
With my grandson, and quite a few of the neighbors' children came. I think it was a fantastic turnout, and he had the best time.
They had a music jam, an art dance jam.
Storytelling, also, which Myrna got me involved.
Oh, yeah.
Dragged me into the middle of the story, and we had the best time. So thank you, Myrna.
Sometimes it's fun just to do stupid fun.
Yeah, it was
Oh, yeah.
stupid fun, and she grabbed my hand, and you can't say no to Myrna. You gotta love her.
No, you can't. And I think this day they must have had a parade. They really mixed up the activities. It was amazing. And at some point they moved
That's the storytelling one, I
to the
believe.
Pine Grove. They started out in the amphitheater, and they moved to the Pine Grove for the last couple. And I guess the point I want to make about that is spending time in the park kind of gives you a sense of what is a good activity to do where. You don't necessarily know that, when you first walk in. And that's one of the reasons I caution people about making quick decisions, because it's a complicated park.
Yeah.
And you don't really necessarily know where you're going to want things.
And we want to make sure that the usage of the roads, how that's going to be done, because there's so many roads you need to, which I believe they're going to try to do, is open up Adelaide Street, because you kind of want to cut off center of what's going on, because there is children, and I'm constantly making sure that my grandson or any of the kids that come down there, or the people come down those roads, you just want to make sure that they're safe and everything. So it's you got to make sure that a playscape isn't put down right next to a road area where there's traffic coming down from Riverside Heights Drive up behind the school coming down too fast. So you want to make sure of that as well. So.
And I wouldn't want the plan to be that we prohibit vehicular traffic.
No.
That would be.
We want to bring it in, but also keep the children safe as well.
Right.
And again, just hurry up, get it in there. I don't think that's the answer.
And they have looked at a couple different plans that do allow a main artery for vehicular traffic, and maybe a secondary road where it's allowed but limited, but keeping more of the park free of roads. In fact, I looked at a very old book about New London parks that was written in like 1913, and one of the parks the guy wrote about was Riverside, and he mentioned then as one of the problems with Riverside that it had too many roads through it. So even in like 1913, he complained that there were too many roads cutting the park apart.
Well, I think the pavement in there is from 1913, so that's something I'd like to address.
Yeah, and there are some roads to nowhere. The roads that lead right to a chain link fence. We don't need them.
Yeah, those can be removed, or
Yeah, I vote for grass and trees.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see if we have a couple more. This is another picture from the art jam. Yeah, drama was part of it. Here's another part of the drama. And you just see in this picture how you're doing this stuff under really tall trees, and it just gives you such a unique sense.
You don't think you're even in New London anymore. It's just, it is simply beautiful.
And then this was
At
stuff
the
they did in the amphitheater, some movement, some
And
painting.
there's Priscilla, who's another advocate for for the park and
And a
helped
neighbor.
and neighbor lives right in there, been to all the meetings and brings her grandson down and yeah, is enjoying the park.
And painting. And these were put in as permanent installations, actually, these little tubes in the ground so that banners can be put up for children to paint in, or adults for that matter. Some movement in the amphitheater. Quilt. Oh, this is more like, big groups, festivals. But it's a really good park for big groups as well.
There's one of those drainage ditches.
Oh yeah, you can see it a little bit over here.
Yep. Coming down from the basketball court.
And people do use the basketball court
All the
really
time.
frequently.
Yes.
So there's basketball, there's bubble blowing,
Yes.
There are grills.
there's dog walking, there's people walking, there's skateboarding. Now,
Interesting skateboarding. We don't
Yeah.
usually sit down.
no, we don't. That was a great day, though. And in fact, it interested me when I looked at the Parks and Rec plan for Riverside Park. One of the recommendations was to make connections with the skateboarding community. And I didn't realize it, but Diane, you did that.
I did that, yes, because my sons are very, very involved in the sport of skateboarding and longboarding, and they also have formed a company called Big Feets, which they hand make custom skateboards and longboards. And they were down by the Riverside in September as exhibitors, and they had the best time. They lent out skateboards to all the little kids, and who had donated helmets?
The Kiwanis.
Kiwanis had donated helmets, so every little kid who got on a skateboard also had a helmet of their very own that they had gotten from Kiwanis. And they just had the best time. The kids were so excited because all these big boys were helping them skateboard, and the roads there are fabulous for skateboarding. And if you're expert level, you can go all the way down the long hill and get about 45 miles an hour on a longboard.
Expert level
Which-
being the key word there.
Yeah,
Yes, and fearless, I think.
and
Yes.
I'd be
or
terrified.
stupid or both. But I mean, I want to give props to the skateboarding community as well, because there was an effort to win a contest that was sponsored by a soft drink company, and I had my sons put out the word on Facebook, and they had thousands of skateboarders putting their votes in every
Wow.
day for this contest. And I think that Riverside Park ended up being like number 25 in the country, which that's amazing.
It's really amazing.
That is an amazing
Simply amazing.
thing. So props to, was it Corinna Vendetta?
Karina Vendetta, she really
that started the
spearheaded
project.
that, yes.
And
It got a lot of people to visit the park.
Yes.
Because you got quadruple points if you
We're near the
registered-
park,
were
yeah.
in the park.
Yes. And it was easy from my house because I'm right next to the park, so when it zeroed in, it looked like I was constantly in the park. So every time I voted, you had to wait like every 15 minutes. Every time I voted, I got extra points for being in the park because, I just went to one side of the house and I was in the park, it looked like all the time, so that was good.
Well, I have to say, I don't have that kind of phone, but I know that there were skateboarders and longboarders voting from the park and from all over,
Right.
probably all over New England, because they do have clubs and they do have get-togethers, and they have skated as a club at Riverside Park, and they like the park. They do not like the poison ivy.
I bet. So,
Yeah.
and
you
we
wipe
come back
out-
again to the goats.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have to deal with the poison ivy, even though it's a native plant. It's gone much more wild than it should. And the skateboards were. It was very. Sometimes really unpredictable things happened, but I think we gave away like 65 helmets that day because we wouldn't let any of the children get on the skateboards if they didn't have a helmet on.
They were so excited to get a
And it was
brand
fantastic.
new helmet.
Yes.
My grandson was so ecstatic.
It
And
was a fun
Yeah,
day. It
it
was
was-
a great experience, and they had the plein air painters that
Yes, and we'll get to them too. Now winter in the park. This is more seasonal. This was a couple weeks ago.
Right.
And
Can't do that today.
Someone did that, the snowman, and I thought he was so cool. That's why I took that picture. And my nephew actually loves to snowboard in the park. He loves the winter time because he can navigate because he's pretty skilled that way. Me, I just look from above, but he can navigate all the way down to the bottom, and it does go very fast.
Yes, but sledding, snowboarding?
Yeah.
and sledding.
There's my neighbor, one of our neighbors.
And that's not something that you can do at Bates Woods Park or Calkins Park or Toby May Park. This is a unique park.
And so whatever happens with Riverside Park, the skateboarders, the snowboarders, the dog walkers, these are groups of people who have always loved the park, actually, and even when the park was not well maintained, never really deserted the park. So I hope that those groups will always be welcome and the design won't shut them out.
Right. I don't think it will. I think once you find the park, you fall in love with it. It's just a beautiful park, so you just keep going. I'm lucky I live right next door, but...
I don't, but I still go there like once
Yeah.
a week because it's just so different. And this
It's
is
worth the trip.
an interesting photo shot.
yeah, and
They're working.
it is not really that flattering, but I have to say the students from Drop-In Learning Center came in, I think it was in August of last summer, and there were, I don't know, maybe 20 or 25 of them. And these two girls, they worked so hard to rid the area, like a really big area from Japanese knotweed, and I had offered them pruning shears, and they said no, they really just wanted to pull it out by the roots. And they worked for like 2 hours pulling out this Japanese knotweed, and afterwards they sat and just chilled on the grass. And also, you know, Conn College, and I
It's
have
one
to
of the neighborhood
say,
kids.
he didn't work as hard as the girls did, but he really got into, you know, playing with the Japanese knotweed and pulling some when they got tired. And then we also had, and they used the basketball court while they were there too. Then we had Conn College freshmen who came, and they did planting, they did some cleaning. One of them did startle a bee's nest or a wasp nest, so we couldn't do as much weeding in some areas, but they did some planting. And as I said, it was their second day in New London, and by the end you could see that they had made friends over the weeding and the planting and the clearing out of the drainage trench and the various jobs they did in the park. Now you mentioned the plein air painting, and when we did the down by the riverside this year, painters were invited, and that was just amazing to me. I didn't actually see any of the painters painting because I was running around like a maniac, but did you actually get a chance to walk around?
Yeah, walk around, say hello, and see where they were coming from, their point of view, what they were looking at, different areas. So it was nice. It was really nice to see that going on.
And they were thrilled, and actually a lot of the artists' friends who didn't participate in this told us to put them on the mailing list for next year because they want to do it next year, and some photographers have asked us to open it up to photography as well.
But the boys are
So hopefully, you know, hopefully next year will be bigger. We had an exhibit at the train station a few weeks afterwards and a big reception, and just because people sometimes, you know, Riverside Park sometimes gets a bad rap, I thought I'd put in some of the paintings that the artists did. And this, I don't have a good photograph of dog walking, but this artist painted a dog walker.
definitely.
And the styles of art.
Just beautiful. I actually bought 2 paintings. I really was excited.
Let's see if, I think I have one of yours. And all different styles. And
I have that one,
just seeing the park through
I think.
different people's eyes. So some of the artists, oh, that's my cat.
Your cat that was adopted,
Yes,
it was
this
a
was my
Riverside Park
Riverside
cat.
adopted cat. So, yeah, and we love him, but
We have a cat infestation in Riverside Park area. We have so many cats and kittens there right now. It's just sad in the wintertime, especially because they're freezing. But that's another thing that we're getting involved in.
yeah, we're hoping to help stabilize that population. And talking about the playscape, the cats present some issues we have to deal with.
That would be a severe problem if they put sand down there, because I would say there's at least 20 to 30 cats in the Riverside Park area right up along that roadway coming towards the back of the houses there. And if sand was put in there or wood chips, it would be used for a litter box, because it's an open litter box right now for them. So, and with kids, and I just wouldn't, you really have to be careful what you put down, especially with so many cats.
5 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, we have 5 minutes. Okay. Well, my last slide, and this is something we can talk about, is this process isn't over.
No.
So on February 13th, there's going to be another session. We've been promised that there will be some preliminary drawings on the park, at least for the road arrangement and possible areas for playground equipment, trails, hiking trails, biking trails, picnicking areas. So we really are trying to get people to come to this.
And they've been, I think, met with a lot of enthusiasm. The last one was just a couple weeks ago. They've been held at different areas in Northeast New London, the Old Mill, the Polish Club, Winthrop School. This one coming up on February 13th is at Winthrop School, and it starts at 6:30. And I think I've met so many more neighbors that have come out because of what's going on and these things that are going on. One of the things I want to mention is we have a Northeast New London Neighborhood Watch Group, and I am not the only one who's involved. Sometimes people think it's just me up there, but it's not.
You were the only one who was free tonight, though.
I was free tonight. Kevin didn't have a babysitter, but there are other members: Kevin Lester, Priscilla Peabody, Donna Green, Amy, and Ed Hart. There's a lot of us in our Neighborhood Watch Group that come to these meetings. Can't come to all of them, but we give updates to each other for this. So there are a lot of us that come to the meeting. It's not just Kathy. I just seem to be the one with the loud mouth. So that's on TV more.
And these are pretty exciting meetings. One of the other things, and I'll just mention this in passing, that there's a problem during rain that water washes down Grove Street, and the landscape architects are actually trying to solve that problem at the same time they're designing something for Riverside Park.
I don't think there's a lot of sewers drains.
No, it isn't sewer. It's like storm water.
We don't have any sewer drains on Bowles Avenue either. So when things go gushing down, they go gushing down through our neighborhood. So
water management is actually a part of the plan as well. But I don't know what the answer is. I'm not the pro, but I really hope that people come to this. It's a democratic process. The landscape architects are fantastic.
And your input is heard, and it doesn't matter what walk of life you're from. You just get involved and come down. You'll be so excited to be involved in this process, because this is history in the making, really. Riverside Park is going to be unbelievable. What they're doing with Hodges Square is going to be unbelievable. I'm excited, and I get to live in this neighborhood while all this is coming about. So it's going to be the hottest neighborhood in New London soon.
I'll have to move to the north end.
To the northeast, where I've been told that we eat macaroni and cheese and spaghetti and meatballs, but we don't.
I had spaghetti a couple of days ago.
Yeah, I love spaghetti and meatballs, but
yeah, it's actually a very diverse neighborhood.
It is.
And it has good access to downtown and could have a lot of advantages to living there. Well, I think we are out of time.
Okay.
So thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
And I hope to see everyone at this meeting on February 13th. If you have an interest in Riverside Park, please come. People do listen, and you get to get really excited because these landscape architects who are working on this are really good. They've worked on a lot of projects, and they have great ideas.
And it's at Winthrop School again, so it's 6:30, February 13th, so make sure you come down. We'd love to see you there. More people, the better.
Yeah, let's fill up that library.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again. And next week, we're going to have a show about the hygienic activities. Dot Nielsen will be the guest. She told me she's bringing music. I don't know who it's going to be, but it'll be fun. So I'll see you next week.
Young man in a carriage, driving like he's mad, with a pair of horses he borrowed from his dad. He cracks his whip so lively just to see his lady smile, but she knows he's only putting on the style.
Putting on the agony, putting on the style. That's what all the young folks are doing all the while. And as I look around me, I'm very apt to smile to see so many people putting on the style.
Sweet 16 goes to church just to see the boys, laughs and giggles at every little noise. She turns this way a little, then turns that way a while, but the boys all know she's only putting on the style.
Putting on the agony, putting on the style. That's what all the young folks are doing all the while. And as I look around me, I'm very apt to smile to see so many people putting on the style.
Young man down from college makes a great display with a great big jaw break which he can hardly say. Can't be found in Webster's and it won't be for a while, but everybody knows he's putting on the style.
Putting on the agony, putting on the style. That's what all the young folks are doing all the while. And as I look around me, I'm very apt to smile to see so many people putting on the style.
The young man in a restaurant smokes that dirty pipe, looking like a pumpkin that's only halfway ripe. Smoking, chewing, drinking, and thinking all the while that there ain't nothing equal to putting on the style.
Putting on the agony, putting on the style. That's what all the young folks are doing all the while. As I look around me, I'm very apt to smile to see so many people putting on the style.
Country lads and lasses are going to the scene, looking fresh as dewdrops on a bunch of garden greens. Gingerbread and candy, eating all the while. I'm going to the circus, putting on the style.
Putting on the agony, putting on the style. That's what all the young folks are doing all the while. And as I look around me, I'm very apt to smile to see so many people putting on the style.
Preacher in the pulpit, shouting with all his might, glory, hallelujah, puts the people in a fright. You might think that Satan's coming up and down the aisle, but it's only the preacher putting on the style.
Putting on the agony, putting on the style. That's what all the young folks are doing all the while. As I look around me, I'm very apt to smile to see so many people putting on the style.
Songwriters from college take a turn on stage, glad that self-expression is finally all the rage. Just